Now it's my honor to introduce Representative Sheila Stubbs for some further comments. Sheila?
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Governor.
You bet.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Hello, and thank you all for being here on such a historic morning to address the urgent crisis of racial disparities in our state. I am State Representative Sheila Stubbs. I represent the 77th Assembly District, which is comprised of the south parts of Madison, the west parts of Madison, UW-Madison campus, and the village of Shorewood. I am a champion for equity and inclusion for the state of Wisconsin. I would like to begin by giving a very special and round of applause to our Governor Tony Evers for your executive order on this morning. A special thank you to Lieutenant Governor Barnes, Senator Lena Taylor, Secretary of the Department of Administration Joe Brennan, Representative Davy Crawley, who is the chair of the Wisconsin Black Caucus, and every one of the members. Our Lieutenant Governor Barnes identified them, members of the Black Caucus, and all of my colleagues who are in the fight for equity and inclusion. By God, it is a great day in the state of Wisconsin. The issues of racial disparities and inequity in Wisconsin has been boiling for years, and we have reached a very dangerous, a very troubling, and a tipping point. Wisconsin has the most extreme racial disparities in our nation. Individual and systemic racism, discrimination, and biases perpetrate and exacerbates disparities in access to economic opportunities, employment, education, housing, and health care. Wisconsin can do and must do better to ensure that our state government protects against oppression, promotes diversity, and advances equity and inclusion. Wisconsin has reached a tipping point after opportunity and outcomes for Black residents has been dropping over the past 40 years and has fallen well below the national average. We must urgently address these issues and work on tipping the scales back toward equity. This bill is a call to action to fuel the efforts of those who are organizing, those who are strategizing, and those who are working close in Wisconsin to close the extreme gap. Racial disparities in Wisconsin is evident in every stage of our life, from birth to schooling, to employment, to voting, to the criminal justice system. There are concrete statistics that show how profound racism exists in our state. For example, the National Center for Health Statistics in January 2018 identified Wisconsin as a state with the highest state mortality rate for infants and non-Hispanic Black women at 14.28%, a rate that is significantly higher than the national average. Black children are living in poverty at a rate that is 3.5 times higher than our white children, according to the American Community Survey 2017. And Black children account for 35% of our foster care population, yet they only make up 9% of the total state child population. In Wisconsin, Black students are 7.5 times more likely than white students to face out-of-school suspension, which contributes to Wisconsin's 8th grade Black students, according to their scoring well below the national average of white students. The average scores on math skills assessments are well above the national level. Disparities between Black and white outcomes on the tests is the highest in the nation, per the Economic Policy Institute. Felony disenfranchisement accounts for nearly 1.47% of the total population, and whereas Black felony disenfranchisement accounts for 8.75% of the total population. In the Sentencing Project of 2019, it reports that Wisconsin is mentioned among 5 states with the largest racial disparities of the incarcerated population. Each of these statistics piggyback off of others that cannot wait for us to act on these issues any longer It is a crisis. It is an urgency. It is an emergency that we must enact change right now in the state of Wisconsin. This bill provides a framework that tackles these profound disparities, and I'm so proud to stand here today with my colleagues and our governor and our lieutenant governor and all of the cabinet members to talk about how important it is for us, and we are standing for change. The definition of equity is the quality of being fair and impartial. This bill is a call to action for Wisconsin to take on racial disparities we see in our state today and the issues that we have been seeing worsening over a course of 40 years. This bill shows real commitment to addressing these initiatives and these issues and institutionalizing the work that heightens the awareness, it eliminates disparities, and it's achieving the real equity that our state must require. Governor Evers is taking the lead today. He is making sure that we do something right now. This bill ensures that we will continue to codify it as a statute and the building of what Governor Evers is calling every agency to do as of today. This bill will offer a comprehensive framework for combating root causes that have been a lead to why we are facing systemic racism and the racism that exists in the history of the state of Wisconsin. In the words of the late Maya Angelou, and she says, and I quote, "Prejudice is a burden that confuses the past, threatens the futures, and renders the present inaccessible." And now it is my deep honor to introduce our Senate lead on this bill, Senator Lena Taylor, who will work on the companion bill in the Senate. Senator Taylor.
Let me start by saying it's been a long time coming. Let me say that I stand here on behalf of Senator Monroe Swan, Senator Gary George, Senator Gwen Moore, Senator Spencer Coggs. I stand here on behalf of the longest-serving African-American legislator in the state of Wisconsin, Annette Polly Williams, who was unapologetically black and would say consistently the things that needed to change in the state of Wisconsin. Governor, I appreciate today you signing this executive order. You know you came in and I wasn't very happy about the diversity in the administration, but let me be the first to call the clarion call to say, I appreciate you signing this executive order today. Thank you so much. The Lieutenant Governor ran on saying diversity and inclusion would be a part of his work when he got here. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for keeping your word. I stand, and I forgot to mention Senator, before Harris, now Dodd, also as one of the senators who has fought for these efforts. We're the worst in the nation as a place to raise a black child, to be a black American. And we have the pleasure of having the top 2 cities in the nation. We need this more than I think anything. And there is nothing, no words really, that I can say, because the signing is one thing. The infrastructure is another thing. But the real work in the policies and seeing if they have biases and disparate effects, in the outcomes and seeing the outcomes and literally looking at the data and changing our behavior, that is when the real applause should happen. These steps are necessary. It reminds me of the 2008 efforts, the 2011 efforts, the 2013 efforts, all trying to move us in this direction. But today, not long after a study that tells us that we lead in the nation in being the worst place to be an African American, that we have literally third world numbers for infant mortality and for maternal mortality during childbirth in 2019. I am emotional because this is meaningful, but it is only the beginning. And I don't want us to today forget that, because the real work comes in who will sit on the task force. The real work comes in, will there be racial impact statements that say what is what? The real work has to come from now. But today, let us thank our governor, let us thank our lieutenant governor, and thank you, Representative, for taking the lead in Dane County and bringing that to the state of Wisconsin. And thank you for all of you who are standing with us. I assure you that the work has only just begun. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We are available for questions. We'll take a couple of questions if there are some.
LRB that we have at this moment that we will be circulating.
LRB 463 will be circulated immediately after this press conference.
So what does the bill do that's different from the executive order?
Sure. What the bill does, it creates an advisory committee. Very simple. It will allow a designee from each state department, and it creates 5 new employees for the department, for the Office of Equity and Inclusion.
And then all of those individuals report to the department from the various agencies. And what it really does is it solidifies what the governor has done in his executive order and basically putting it in statute and a process upon which we can begin to collect information in every agency.
Do you have any Republican support on the bill?
At this point, the bill has not been circulated, but I would hope that this is, because this is not a Republican or a Democrat issue. Now, we do not have any Republicans presently that are African American, if you've not noticed. So they're not standing with us today. But I would hope that whether it is Fitzgerald or Robin Voss who represents the area, who is second in the nation for the worst place for African Americans to live, I would hope that as soon as they are aware of the legislation, that they'll be running to our doors, knocking them down to say, let's do what is right, as Martin Luther King would say. It's always the right time to do what is right.
In addition, this bill allows for 2 representatives to be on the bill and 2 senators,
On the task
one
force.
for the advisory task force, and it allows 1 from each party. So they're available to help serve and address these inequities. There's room at the table.
Governor, the Assembly is expected to pass a resolution today that would recognize Thanksgiving Week as National Bible Week.
Is it possible that we could stay on the topic for a moment?
Yeah, we're dealing with
It's been
equity.
a long time coming.
Yeah, only
It's been a-
equity questions.
Does that promote the kind of message of inclusion that you're talking about today?
We're talking about inclusion, so can you please ask us questions about the Office of Equity and Inclusion, and when the governor's finished, if he wants to address you, that's fine, but please don't disrespect our time on such a critical issue that addresses Black people in the state of Wisconsin.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, this is very important for us.
You mentioned that there are past efforts. What do you hope is the changes this time that you think actually create results that you want to see?
That leadership comes from the top. Today, the governor has made it very clear that equity and inclusion is important to him and important to the state of Wisconsin. And as a result of that, I hope that because of that leadership, that the legislature will feel the same.
Great, thanks everyone.
Thank
you.
you so much. I'm sorry, what was your question about Thanksgiving?
Yeah, do it afterwards.
This program is a production of Wisconsin Eye, an independent, nonpartisan, nonprofit media network with a mission to inform, educate, and engage the citizens of Wisconsin. Wisconsin Eye is the nation's first and only independently funded state civics broadcast network, providing gavel-to-gavel access to government proceedings and events at the state capitol. Wisconsin Eye would not exist without generous donors like you. Please visit wisci.org to make a donation today.